This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.
And welcome to another edition of I Love Black People. Thank you for following us. Thank you for all your shout outs throughout the week on our social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as Instagram. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for keeping us up to date with what's happening and allowing us to share the good news of loving Black people all over the world. And as you know, most of our work is done through technology as we continue to build our applications and platforms to protect Black people from racism and Afrophobia. And a matter of fact, in next very soon, in the next few weeks, we're going to have a billboard in Johannesburg, South Africa, in Park Station, which is one of the busiest bus stations with people coming from all over the world, actually, to South Africa. And as you know, there have been issues of Afrophobia, Black folks from different African countries being attacked. But sometimes when we discuss this, we don't bring up the fact that South Africa has one of the largest population, the diaspora of our people find themselves oftentimes in South Africa. And most South Africans have been very welcoming. Often is discussed about how even when South Africa was going through its struggle with apartheid, many of us may not have been able to find it on a map, but we were clear about, the issue of apartheid in South Africa and how imperative it was for us to end that. I remember you couldn't go to Shell gas station because Royal Dutch Shell was one of the companies supporting apartheid. I think Kodak or Polaroid was one of the companies that was making these visas. I actually had friends when I was at Tuskegee, and this is in the late 80s, where they would be honorary whites basically when they were in South Africa. They would get a ID card that basically gave them the ability to move around in South Africa, unlike the indigenous and local African brothers and sisters, the Xhosas, the Vendas, the Zulu folks. They again were in these townships under apartheid, and many of our brothers and sisters, when they come to South Africa, they often bring up how African solidarity was essential in supporting the liberation struggle. Mandela, the ANC, Winnie Mandela, and many of the others that we know sacrificed their lives. Stephen Biko, these are folks who were giants and actually showed and demonstrate what a liberation people should look like and behave. Since that time, there's been many instances where even folks have come in to South Africa and in ways trying to undermine divide and rule, and you can see that is something that the colonizer did in throughout Africa and still does it. And you have issues with Africans, brothers and sisters from different parts of the continent. Now you'll see issues of friction of jobs and other issues. And to be candid, still, it's a very small group of people who take that behavior, and some would even say are being funded by colonizers, by folks who want to see conflicts. They're being supported or funded to promote these things. And we have instances where brothers and sisters have been harmed in South Africa. And the context of that is that there's been tension between amongst African citizens from other places. So our attempt with highlighting Afrophobia at this bus station is to highlight the fact that we as a people must come together to fight and resist and struggle against these powers that try to undermine our unity and our harmony and our solidarity, which that solidarity is what got us to the point where we've been able to liberate so much of our people and our sovereignty from the colonial powers, which still are there. And I think sometimes they forget that this is a journey, not a destination. Liberation, as long as those who covet what you have are still around, we got to be vigilant. We can't think that our ancestors ended this struggle with a liberation date. We stand on their shoulders, and the struggle continues. The struggle is eternal, and we have something to contribute to that. So whatever shortcomings, or sometimes we look back at our ancestors and we talk about what they didn't do. What every generation out of relative obscurity must do is fulfill this destiny or betray it. And I think in many ways, we're the adults in the room, so we're the ones responsible now for what's happening now. And we definitely have a lot to do with what's going to happen for our prodigy and our children. One of the things we're doing at I Love Black People is highlighting that issue of Afrophobia, defining it. Again, that's another thing people, because we were using the word xenophobia, and many of the attacks that are going on aren't going on with any other folks but fellow Africans in South Africa. And when we discuss the issue of Afrophobia, we try to make it very clear that we're really talking about the definition. Afrophobia is the fear or hatred of people perceived to be of African descent. So those issues are very serious to us, and we oftentimes sometimes we don't even discuss how these issues are coming about when we bring up poverty and joblessness, and we make it intertwined with social economic issues. But fundamentally, we have a issue that again that's seen Black people attacked specifically throughout the world. And no matter how much money we have in our pocket or how much education we have, is unacceptable. And it is being caused, maybe, of course, outside of our community. Might be powers that be, as we always discuss, outside colonizers of folks who wish to cause us harm. That being the case, if it's true, it's fine. But the solution has to be in our hands. So as we look at elevating these issues and not waiting for another crisis, we're going to leverage this billboard that we've put together with the help of brothers and sisters literally throughout the continent to highlight the issue and organize around ways that we can protect each other from Afrophobia and racism. The billboard would have a QR code where you'll be able to get in contact with us. And of course, we have an app, probably one of the most prolific Pan-African apps that currently exists, where we literally connect our community to build this safety net. So definitely this would be a big way for us to draw attention to the fact we're creating solutions. We may not have created the problem, but we're definitely the solution to this issue. So definitely be on the lookout for the billboard, and we'll be doing things to highlight press releases and things that we need to do to get the word out. With that being said, it's also important that that we all do more to take whatever parts of our life, as we're so busy, to take the time out to be of help to each other. And I think, it's a good transition. If we talk about helping out each other as we get older, and I just turned 54 this year, so less than a month ago. And I think something that we sometimes don't think about is our own longevity and what we need to do to make sure the time that we have on this planet is as useful as possible. And I think sometimes we kind of think about it in maybe black and white terms as it relates to being living or dying. And we don't think about that kind of middle part where we could still be alive, but our quality of life can be degraded considerably because of health issues. And I just recently experienced a couple little health scares, and I think it would be helpful to share. I wasn't sure, but I said, let me go ahead and share with y'all because again, on this journey, we sometimes get so focused on these things that we think are so important in our mission and our calling. I know people have different faiths that listen to this to our show, and we're definitely we open to all faith. And if you don't have any faith, we should just share some of ours and allow that to be of some type of example. But with that being said, all this is something that can be fragile, and our health is a big part of that. And maybe some of y'all don't know, I'm also a pilot. My background, I'm a mechanical engineer, and my dad was actually in the Air Force. So I definitely wasn't into the military. I actually was offered a Roxy scholarship, and I turned it down. But Dad was very disappointed. But I definitely appreciate his sacrifice, and I, again, on both sides of my family, I've had relatives who were Tuskegee Airmen, a Wendell Pruitt from St. Louis. My people originally from St. Louis by way of Africa, of course, but all my family is, on both sides are out of St. Louis. So Wendell Pruitt, there's a big housing project called the Pruitt Igo, was named for my great great cousin, and he was a Tuskegee Airman. So I definitely went to Tuskegee, as most of you know, and instead of aerospace engineering, I actually took mechanical engineering because I thought it was more opportunities and versatility than just aerospace. But I worked for a company, McDonnell Douglas, which is now Boeing, working on military aviation planes, F-18 Harriers, and these are all weapons of mass destruction. And when the first Persian Gulf War happened, I quit and I stopped working for that company. And I also worked for a company called Honeywell that worked with the space systems for the space shuttle. So I had always had an interest in aviation, aerospace, all those things. And about 12 years ago, I took the time out after transition through a whole bunch of different things and got my pilot's license. So I'm a private pilot, and I'm taking a long way around to get to my point about health. So walk with me, please, humbly. And as a part of that, I also have type 2 diabetes. So I got to keep my diabetes. And I use, and this is not a commercial, but I use the Freestyle Libre. They have like a little sensor, so you don't have to keep pricking your finger, and it allows you to test and keep up with your levels. But when you're a private pilot, general aviation, small, I fly like a Cicada and a Cessna 182. You have to get what they call a third class medical. Now, commercial airline pilots, I think, is first class or second class, but my classification of general aviation, we have a third class medical, and through that, I have to take a physical. If you don't have diabetes, I think it's every 2 years, but since I have diabetes, in order not to be grounded where I can't fly, every year I have to go to my physician, an aviation physician, Dr. Gupta, and I would consider him black friendly. He's not black, but he's black friendly, and he's an aviation. I actually had a sister, Dr. Sylvia Medley, super awesome doctor. But she's not an aviation doctor, definitely a great doctor. Shout out to Dr. Sylvia Medley, based in Washington, D.C. So I definitely give her a shout out. But I have a aviation doctor that makes sure that all my information is submitted to the FAA so I can keep so I'm not grounded, so I can stay flying. And as a part of that annual, of course, you do your blood work. And this year, my in my blood work, they found that my prostate, my PSA levels were high. And praise God, so first of all, I since I have to get tested every year, it's probably kept me in the situation where I keep my blood levels the way they should be, my glucose as well as my pressure, because all these things are factors. If you don't stay in the proper ranges, I won't be able to fly. So I got to be healthy in order to fly. Now, I guess many of you say, "Well, man, it shouldn't take all that for you to want to be healthy." So let's be clear. I'm going to do better, but this is probably for the last 12 years been something that's kept me in a space where I've been active. So this year, they said my prostate levels, PSA, and PSA is prostate. Specific antigens or something like that. It's prostate, and I'm saying prostate, not prostrate. Prostate. I was saying it wrong too. But anyway, that being said, they had said that my levels were up to 6 from 2 something, and I had to go to a specialist. So the whole time I was kind of in the back of my mind, I do stay prayed up, and we pray several times a day, just to keep the spirits, the ancestors, God focused. And with that being said, and when you make these healthcare arrangements, they're like backed up. So I think I placed the appointment back in April, and they didn't have an availability till like June. So I went to the doctor, and was definitely concerned. My wife praying for me, and and I'm saying this, but the doctor was a small Asian man, and I bring up the fact that he was Asian and small, not because of any being a man, not to do any gender or race things, but he had small hands. Praise God, alhamdulillah, right? So when you go through this phase, they do the blood work and it says high. One of the things they want to do is they want to actually do a physical inspection of your prostate. And your prostate has a lot to do with your love life. And it actually, over time, as you get older, does get larger and can affect you being able to go to the bathroom or making you go to the bathroom more. I had none of those symptoms. I've been super awesome, but the results of the blood work from a physical said it was high in quite a bit higher than it had typically been the last year. So one of the things that the doctor did say to me was like, "Hey, sometimes it's a false, we have to, we have a more rigorous blood test, and we'll be able to take that and see what your results are." And they have to do what they call a digital examination. Now, they don't mean digital like high tech. Okay, they mean digital like they finger. So they literally have you bend over on your elbows on the I'm not going to be too graphic, but this was a real experience. And it was something I had never been exposed to per se, but heard lots about, on my elbows on the bed while he had to check. And it felt like it was about a minute long, but it probably was just 10 seconds or so. And he said, after he did it to me, he said it was soft. So that's a good sign that he felt it. And he said that the prostate felt soft. So it felt uncomfortable as all get out. With that being said, and but I bring all these things up to say that one of the things we do at I Love Black People with our application, based on the model of the original Green Book with the directory of Black friendly spaces, we include healthcare and finding health care facilities and doctors and practitioners that treat us with dignity, respect is a big deal. And we need more recommendations. So if you know of good doctors, good hospitals that treat our people with the value, and I will say this was Dr. Wong. He was definitely respectful. He's actually like the chief urologist of the hospital. It was MedStar, and very professional. And I was in and out. He tried to talk to me while he was doing what he was doing, just to kind of throw my mind off, because I was definitely quite hesitant. And it was definitely a positive experience. And the results came back, via email. that my PSAs were only 3.3. And so I'm sharing my healthcare information, but 4 is like, you don't want to be above 4. And at my age, the threes, low threes is good. And then as you get older, like every 10 years from that, it's like a higher point. So, and definitely feel relieved. But at the same time, I think we, not just my health, but even health of our parents as we get older, us Gen Xers, and being aware that our parents also need good help. And some of these doctors can be quite arrogant and not be receptive and responsive. Now, I've been blessed to have some doctors that will listen to what I'm saying and work with me. And if they have someone like a physician assistant or someone else on their team that does or says something I don't like, I'm very vocal. But not everybody has that type of agency. So that's why it's even more important that we identify folks that treat our people with the dignity and respect. And out of all the places where you don't want racism to lift this ugly head, is definitely when you're in a medical crisis or dealing with a situation about your health and well-being, and now you're sitting across from a racist who's looking at you in ways that I can't even imagine, but the consequences of that are quite dire. So that's why we take it very serious that we need to create our own safety net and identify. And then think this is another thing. Just as much as people say don't go somewhere, we talk about some of the sisters sister recently who was an Olympian who passed away. We might even say was killed by the healthcare system, where literally the outcomes of Black women in America with babies uh, is abysmal, and this is unacceptable. And we know this is systemic. It's not a coincidence. It's just the women that has happened to are very athletic. They're very articulate. And it shouldn't take all that, right? You should just be a patient. And you should be to expect it. It even happened to Serena Williams, and she's even married to a white man. She's, probably a billionaire, physically fit, well known, and she almost died giving birth to her beautiful baby. So I think one of the things that we sometimes don't take serious enough until it hits us is this issue of health, and then being able to be there for our parents and our family members going through it. And I think sometimes, as we, just being on the phone and talking to your parents, doctors, those who are fortunate enough to still have parents. And these are some of the things my siblings, we take seriously as we see the, changing. And what's so interesting about the changes, it may be frustrating to you dealing with your parents changing, but just imagine how frustrating it must be to them, knowing that they were once in a situation where they could take care of themselves and do these things for themselves, and now they can't. And I'm telling you, with that prostate issue, it made me think, really about, again, how fragile life is, and how, I took so many things for granted, and I need to do better or be conscious. Now, the only recommendation the doctor gave me he said olive oil is good for prostate. So, again, probably some well-needed weight loss would be helpful, and to stay active would be great on my behalf. And, my wife does cook healthy food. So it's one of those things where I think we need to take more responsibility before it's a crisis. And again, I'm not saying that somebody's self-righteous. I'm one of I'm guilty as charged, like every time. I might sneak in. Look, yeah, I'm doing. We're all a work in progress. Let me just keep it 100. But with that being said, for our family's sake, for our sake, and we definitely, I want to have some folks come on talking about wills and trusts and things that we can do to even protect our financial interests. But with that being said, I'm also really saying that quality of life while we're here, how do we make sure we maintain that and not just think of this as life or death, but look at it as the quality of life and what we can do to make sure that our everyday activities, is a lifestyle. But as so many of you are driven, and we just get focused on our goals and don't focus on some of the things that that could actually hinder our progress. And I think I'm going to close out with another issue that we're really serious focused about is this gun violence. Again, we're talking to technologists, business folks. This is not something that we're just going to hold the police to be the ones to solve it for us. We're going to have to be active in this solution. And when I say active, being a concealed and carry, having a gun, those of us who participate in that, we're doing it out of fear. So that being said, I just want to thank everyone again for your support. Keep looking out. If you haven't downloaded the app, iloveblackpeople.com, check us out on there. For those who want to reach us on social media, we got the social media, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. And as I always start off in all our, our episodes, this is about our love for each other. And as I close out, I am because we are.
This is I Love
Thank
Black
you
People
so much.
Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to AFLAC for supporting I Love Black People Radio.